Hello and welcome to Cooking the Books with Heather. Today we're going to continue working out of Teresa Carl Sanders' Outlander Kitchen Cookbook. And we're going to be making a pretty simple recipe. We're going to be making Fergus's roasted tatties. Tatties are, of course, a slang for potatoes in Scotland. So these are just roasted potatoes. So I've got most of my ingredients here, definitely everything I need right now to cut up and all that. So the first thing I'm going to do is to cut my onion into 8 wedges. It doesn't say to leave any of this on, so I'm going to, like the root, so it'll probably just all fall apart when we get to this part. But the onion will be fine cut up for however long. So I'm just going to cut that up first. Peel it over here. Got just a bag from the grocery store that the onion was in. So like that and like that. So these are pretty big pieces of onion. But of course, onions have layers, so they all fall apart. There we go. Now that that's dealt with, the potatoes that we're going to be using today are russet potatoes. This one's got a little yucky bit at the end, so I'm going to go ahead and cut that off. But I just bought them, so there we go. And then we're going to peel them and then quarter them. So what I'm going to do here, and you probably won't see all of it because it's going to take a little time, is I'm going to peel them, I'm going to rinse them, I'm going to quarter them, and then I'm going to put them in this sort of medium saucepan, not a huge pan, but you definitely want to be able to fit all of the potatoes in here. Doesn't have to have a lot of water around it, but you know, enough to cover. So peel them, rinse them, quarter them, and put them in there. And we'll talk about that as soon as I'm done. So I'm not going to quarter them first. I'm going to go ahead and peel all of them, put them in there, and then quarter them. I think, if they'll all fit. This one also had a little bit of a bad spot, which makes me grateful that I overestimated. She measured this by weight rather than number of potatoes, which is great. And I got a little bit more than the recipe calls for, which means I can take out bad spots and stuff, and I'll still have plenty of potatoes. So now I'm going to quarter my potatoes and cut off any bad spots that I see. That one had a little bit of a bad spot there. Should have kept my bags, but that's all right. So these are pretty big pieces of potato that we're going to be cooking, but okay, so that's our potatoes all cut up. Might get a little bit of this water out because it's a little too much. It will boil over if it's that deep. But I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to salt this water. There are no measurements for the salt in this part of the recipe, so I just kind of salted it heavily with, I usually use iodized salt, table salt in water when I'm making potatoes or pasta, just because it's very cheap and it provides some iodine, which you know, most people are kind of missing, and I don't notice a difference in flavor. So that's what I did with this. We are bringing it to a boil uncovered over high heat When it comes to a boil, we're going to reduce it to medium-high and boil it gently for 5 minutes. So we're not looking for these to be completely done, but we're going to boil them for a time limit for 5 minutes. So I'm not really going to show you this part. In about 5 minutes, we'll be back. So my potatoes have been cooking for about, for exactly 5 minutes. Boiling, brought it to a boil, and then cooked for 5 minutes. These need to be drained in a colander, and then you let them sit in the colander to dry, to sort of steam dry for 2 minutes. While that is happening, I'm going to take whatever I have in the oven out right now and increase the heat to 425 degrees. So that's what we're going to cook these at. So sadly, my ham, which is what was in there, is nowhere near warm enough. I thought it would be warm enough by this time. So it's just gonna have to cook at a higher heat than I wanted it to for a little while. And these are gonna have to share the oven. Hopefully that'll work out okay. We'll see. So I have a metal baking pan here. She uses a higher sided one, at least from the pictures. She doesn't say that it has to be a really high-sided pan, and I don't think it really does. As long as it fits all of your potatoes and everything in it. So I'm gonna bring the potatoes over here. Now these are pretty large potato pieces, but that's okay. That's, you know, what it is. We're supposed to put all of the onions in here. We have some vegetable oil. My usual is, as I always say, grapeseed oil, and we're looking for sort of a neutral flavored oil that will handle relatively high heat, which, you know, 425 is pretty high. You wouldn't want olive oil for something like this. We're going to put some pepper. I'm not going to measure this. There we go. Some salt, which I will measure, because why not? Even though the other part is not measured. This is just plus extra. So this measurement plus extra for the water. And then we have some thyme sprigs. Mine was getting a little woody, but is coming back from the winter where it's, you know, not really great, but it's doing okay. But I need to trim back some bits that are not great. But there we go. We have everything sort of tossed here in that quite a bit of oil, but I think potatoes, to get nice and nicely crispy, need some oil or some butter or something, although butter doesn't work very well at high temperatures. So put that there. Now I'm gonna have to put mine on the rack underneath my ham because it won't fit otherwise. So we'll see if that messes with our cook time. We're going to roast these for 30 minutes, and then we're gonna do a little something more. So we'll be back in about 30 minutes. So my potatoes have been roasting for about 30 minutes, and I'm going to just sort of toss them around a little bit. My potatoes and onions and everything else. But what I'm doing now is making sure that these are all turned over so a different side is on the bottom. I've got this fork because we are supposed to smash these a little bit with either your spatula or a fork. Some of them are nice and brown, some of them are less brown, but that's all right. So I'm just gonna kind of mash, well, they aren't really smashing very well. So I think they might need a little more time here because mine were bigger, so, let's see. Yeah, these smaller ones smash a little bit better. So what am I gonna do here? All right, maybe I will. So I'm gonna put these back in the oven without smashing them for another 15 minutes, just because I think mine were just a little bit too big, a little bit bigger than hers. Some of them are smashed, whatever, it'll be fine. And then we'll take them out and smash them at that point. And we'll check our ham and hopefully it'll be done. But it needs at least, after you smash them, at least 15 more minutes. So, or about 15 more minutes to get all sort of golden brown. But I guess we'll show you what it looks like in 15 minutes and see if they smash a little better. Okay, so these have roasted for an extra 30 minutes at this point, and I'm hoping, I've tossed them around again. Okay, yeah, I don't think I'm supposed to smash them quite that much, but they definitely are more smashable at this point. And I think another 15 minutes will probably be perfect. Some of my onions got a little overcooked in my opinion, but you know, I cooked them longer than she said. So I think it was partially because my potatoes were a little bit bigger, and also so they didn't cook as much in the first stage or the second, and also because I had to share the oven with the ham, which is now done. So these are gonna go back in for about 15 minutes, and then they will be all done, and we'll show you what they look like and let you know what we think of them in just a minute. On this episode of Cooking the Books with Heather, you watched me make Fergus's roasted tatties from Teresa Carl Sanders' Outlander Kitchen cookbook. And these were really good, pretty easy. You do sort of boil the potatoes first and then roast them, which helps you roast them a little bit less time. Although I think, so mine took a little extra long to roast. I think mine were a little bit bigger than hers. I needed one less than she suggests to make up the same amount of weight. So they were a little bit bigger. And it took a while, it took a little bit longer for me to be able to smash them a little bit, as she says to do after they've roasted for a little while. So I think I could have boiled them a little bit longer, but I was afraid of boiling them too long. So I ended up just roasting them longer. And that usually tends to happen for me even when I'm roasting potatoes for something like, I've done HelloFresh meals and stuff like that. And I like mine brown and crispy. And so I tend to roast things a little bit longer than they say. I swear, most recipes they're afraid of scaring you off with the amount of time it takes and don't want you to roast them long enough. But I like them brown and I like them crispy, so I roast them longer. Everybody liked these. The onions were nice and sweet. A few of them got a little extra brown around the edges, which were still delicious. They didn't taste too burnt. I may have tasted those, as I took them out to check them sometimes, so they might not have been in there the entire time. But I enjoyed the onions being in there with potatoes. I personally prefer a waxier potato when I'm roasting potatoes in the oven. I love russets for baked potatoes where, you want them kind of fluffy and dry, and I put a lot of butter and sour cream on them, and it's delicious. I love that. But I think for roasted potatoes, I would choose a waxier potato, maybe even like a Yukon Gold, which is a little bit sort of in the middle. But that's personal preference. I just felt like these were a little bit dry in the middle. But if you like that, it's fine. It was still delicious. Everybody enjoyed it. And it was a pretty easy side to throw in when I was also baking something else in the oven. So that's what I did. Anyway, we all enjoyed them. And I thought it was easy, and I hope that you try these and let me know what you think in the comments down below. If you enjoyed watching me make it, please give me a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and come back and watch me make something else next week.